about there? I've gone to town twice on this thing now. Here's a shot of all the tools I think I will need for this job, and then we'll count how many times I run back and forth to grab the rest of the stuff I need. I knew it shouldn't have been that hard. There's one thing that's going to fall out. That's a spacer for that side. And there's a spacer on the other side as well. So don't lose those. And keep track of which one is which. That'll just save you time putting it together. Oh yeah, now I remember. The sprocket is actually floating. And inside the wheel is I think this is called a spider. It's a piece of rubber that's molded. And so it's got teeth sticking up. The rubber goes on it. And so it's got basically... It's got the duplicate of these also in the wheel, and the rubber goes in between them for vibration dampening. It is a gorgeous day. I think this is the day after Christmas or 2 days after Christmas. I'll look it up later. Boxing Day or day after Boxing Day. All we got to do is undo these bolts. They're probably tight, so I'm going to use my breaker bar to break them loose so you don't break your ratchet. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to see if there's a mark on there. Oh, there it is. I never could see this. This is a 43, and we're going to put a 38. So 5 less teeth. Gloves, because reasons. And remember which way we're going. So lefty loosey, righty tighty. Oh yeah, these aren't too bad. So that's good. It's considerably different. This will make us go this much faster. Look at that, like a glove. And we will torque it on like you would do a wheel or, anything like that. Go around opposites and then, work your way around. Okay. Assembly is the reverse of disassembly. You remember? Castellated nuts have that slot in the top that looks like a castle. Okay, so now I know the hole is straight up. That makes my life a little bit easier. And of course there is a torque on here, but since I don't have the book out here and I don't have my torque wrench, because I don't own one, we'll tighten it down and then snug it. All right, it works. Yay. All right, the chain does seem quieter. It's got better tension. It's not as super tight as I thought it was, although it's not terrible. I think I'll leave it for now. I was seeing between 15 and 16, maybe 17, instead of 13, 14, and 15. So we picked up maybe 2 or 3 miles per hour. Yesterday I got to town in less than an hour. With this, more of the road I can run at, full throttle without having to slow down for every little bump. But yeah, it seemed like it worked. Everything was fine. It's as good as it was. I didn't ruin anything. So now that it's a little bit after 1 o'clock, I got to go to the post office and pick up something. I see the clouds are coming in. I don't think there was any rain forecast. All right, 3:34 p.m. and we are home. It's completely irrelevant because I forgot to look at what time it was when I left. So here we go. For an idea of cargo, we did 24.9 miles according to the odometer. I'm going to compare that to what the phone says. I did GPS tracking. It's about the right size for back here. It's sticking out too far on the back. Is what it is. It's a good size for the amount of stuff I usually carry. So, bolts, beans, and balls. Yeah. So, I'll come back to that in a minute. Wolf chili. It's a good chili. There is 3 6-packs in the box. That's bolts that I need for the motorcycle. I don't know about impulse buys, but yeah, I guess impulse buy is probably pretty close. When I realized that my battery mount was a huge knee knocker, I thought what I need is something like a tennis ball or a racket ball or something to stick on there, and I didn't have any. I thought, oh, it's like, I can probably buy these online. So I got a 12-pack of racket balls. So bolts, beans, and balls. That's my world. Although technically, there's no beans in the chili, so that whole bit just doesn't work anymore. Well, there's almost a walkway in between the bikes now. Not too bad. How about there? Ta-da! I've gone to town twice on this thing now. Since the last video, I took the bicycle batteries off and just moved the big batteries up onto their shelf. Kind of can see it here. I just grabbed a couple of scraps of plywood and a piece of OSB, and then set the battery on top of that. It's working. You know, it's not a permanent solution. Where the battery is, I don't bump my knee on it. I just have to put my knee far enough out to clear it. So I'm riding a little bit like you're riding a fat horse or something. The battery just clears the handlebar. Like it's just right there, right? Clearance is clearance. It's a lot of weight up high and there's no weight down low, but it's within reason for now. It's good enough for testing. I don't want to change anything with the batteries or the battery mount because new motor is coming. I went ahead and ordered the new motor, which is then I'm going to have to redo the whole motor mount. So the battery mount is attached to the motor mount. So very likely I'm just going to take that whole piece off and rebuild it for the new motor. So I'm going to wait until that gets here. The chain is ridiculously loose. I just bopped it on there and left it. I could at least I could adjust the chain. When I put the motor on, I added, I think 4 or 5 links to the chain because the motor was further forward than the original KLR Sprocket would have been. So I looked around in my scrap pile and had a few extra chain links. I just put them in the chain to extend it enough to reach, but that's too long. My project for today, I've got a new smaller sprocket for the rear wheel, which should give me more speed but less torque. I feel like I've got enough torque. I'm not going up any steep hills, so we can gear it up a little bit. Anyway, so I need to go to town today to pick up some more packages, but I've got some time, so I thought, all right, let's pop the wheel off, put the new sprocket on, and put it back on. I'm able to get to town now in less than an hour, and the speedometer says I'm going about 14 miles an hour going and closer to 15 coming back because it's a slight hill coming home. Well, uphill going and downhill coming back. Now that I've seen 14 to 15 miles an hour consistently, we should be able to see how much of a speed increase we're getting. With the 2 batteries, I can get to work and back twice and then charge it. I could make it there and back with margin with 1 battery. I've got about 60 miles on the bike now, and the chain has popped off twice, and each time it's caught the wheel with the chain and it just locks up the back wheel. That's exciting. You know, it's not bad at 12 miles an hour. It'd be pretty scary at 60 miles an hour, but obviously the chain is ridiculously loose. So we'll get that sorted, and yeah, off we go. Also, I'll go find my wireless mic so everybody can hear me. Carefully plugged my wireless mic into the headphone jack instead of the mic jack and couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any sound. Okay, I think we're ready now. Here's a shot of all the tools I think I will need for this job, and then we'll count how many times I run back and forth to grab the rest of the stuff I need. Yeah. Get the bike up on the jack stands. I'm just using my Harbor Freight jack stands. That seemed to work last time, so we'll try it again. And the trick is lean the bike over one way, slide the stand on it, and then lean it the other way and get the other stand on it. And I think the ground is a little bit uneven here anyway, so get the stands about the same height and see how it looks. How did I do this last? Oh yeah, right. Lean it towards you on the side stand. Get it on there, and then lift it up off of the side stand. Ah, look at that. Not exactly straight. Probably will work. That's not very straight, but whatever. If you had a cardboard box, that would work just as well. Because I usually end up dropping the chain on the dirt. How about that? Find your master link. One is there. I've got two master links on this chain. So if I just rotate the master link onto that, onto the sprocket, the way I've been doing it, with your pliers, grab the end of the master link and the pin and just squeeze it, and that undoes the master link. And then, I don't know if it's easier with gloves on or off. A little smack. Oh, look at that, dropped it right in the dirt. That's predictable. Then push the master link out. Small amount of violence usually works. Your chain will do this easier. This one is an old rusty chain. We're using this for testing. No reason to put a new chain on at this point. The reason I'm doing it on the sprocket like this, and this may be working against me, is the sprocket will help hold the chain. Otherwise it's bouncing around. That seems to be working against us today. Here we go. Okay. And actually, I don't need to completely remove the chain. I just need to get the chain off the rear wheel. So since I've got the board underneath it, I'm going to pick up my master link pieces and put them on the bench so I don't lose them. There's no reason to take the chain all the way off right now. Okay, when I lose that, remind me it's on the bench. Okay, step one done. Maybe step two if we count actually putting the bike on the lift. Alright, now, I remember reading this in the book. The way that the brake is set up, it's behind the center line of the axle. So when we take, actually, if we just drop the wheel straight down, it should clear the brake. But one of the maintenance books I had talked about taking the caliper out of the way, and you can just tie it to your hand grip on the back, which is probably out of the shot there. So there's a couple Allen screws here that attach the caliper to the keeper holder thingy. I am going to do that because it's just a good thing to do. It gets the brake out of the way, so you're not fighting the brake when you're putting the wheel back on. Is really when it's important. Handful of tools. Slide my stool over, hopefully not blocking the shot. Life is too short to kneel in the dirt if you don't have to, right? Set the tools on the seat where they're guaranteed to fall off. Since we've got a handle up here, oh, this is way too long. That'll work. Okay. This is what I used to do when I was on the Alaska trip. I got a lot of flat tires. Just take one of the bungees that I already had and disconnect the brake. You leave the, that's tight, it hasn't been off for a while. Leave the brake line connected, so you don't have to mess with bleeding the brakes again. You just disconnect it or unhook it from the swing arm. And there's no nut on this. It's threaded into the caliper. Okay, so you just slide it up. As long as you don't hit the brake, your brake pads won't move. And then just use the bolt hole and hook it up out of the way. And put these somewhere safe so you don't lose them, because that'll happen. I'm going to say that wheel isn't very well balanced as far as it spun when I took the brake off. Okay, next step. Cotter pin. I should have parked the opposite way. All the action is on this side, I guess. I'm not cutting the cotter pin, I'm just using my wire cutters to straighten it out a little bit, because you can grip it and then, oh, there. Grab my regular, or what do you call these, lineman pliers? Something? No, that's not right. I used to know the names of tools. I don't remember anymore. Since I cannot remember if I have any cotter pins, I'm just going to straighten this one out and reuse it. Okay, I'll put that up on top where I'm sure to forget where I put it. A couple of crescent wrenches. Now, do not knock the bike off the stand. I may put a center stand on this bike. My last KLR had one. I haven't put one on this one. It is sure nice to have a center stand. So that might happen. All right. Find an appropriately sized rock to hit that with. To make life easy on myself, I am going to go grab a hammer and a punch to pound that out. If you had the bike on the ground or close to the ground, get a stick underneath to take the weight off the wheel. It comes out pretty easy. Since I stuck it up so high. I'm going to take all my little parts and put them over on the bench, because if I happen to knock this over, I will never find these things again. Guaranteed. The problem with working in the sand is if you drop something in the sand, it's gone. You're not going to find it. You might find it. Usually not. Alright. Let me just see if I lift up the wheel, how much tension is on it. Yeah, I'm going to get a hammer. Let's see if we can do this a kind of smart way. Not necessarily exactly the smart way, but... Oh, okay. Even with the center stand, you wouldn't be that far off the ground. This will be easier when we put it back together because it's hard to lift the wheel that far. Okay. Something the old guys would talk about, don't just hit the end of the bolt because you'll mushroom it, but if you have something like a punch, you can hit that. Then you're not damaging the bolt as much. Look out for this guy because it's going to fall out. That's part of your adjuster. Also, as the punch goes through, see the wheel drop there. Now the punch is going to be partially supporting the wheel. And let's get a shot of this. On this side, there's a spacer. All of this is in the book. If you get a bike, any bike, get the book. This part is the bracket that was holding the brake caliper. That's a separate piece. That'll fall off or slide out. There's also a spacer here. Keep track of the spacer. I think there's a spacer on the opposite side. It's been a while since I've done this. So if you get the punch in there, trying to do that with both hands. Find the hammer. I know I'm totally blocking you. Anyway, if you can hold the wheel straight and get the punch to follow the bolt, and then as you pound the punch in, it'll support the wheel. And then you look to see what you're stuck on next. And then from the opposite side, support the wheel and pull the washer, or which is covered in grease. That's good. At least it's not going to be rusty if it's greasy. I'm binding up on something. I'm probably just enough out of alignment. Oh yeah, I can see it. Okay. Stop and look. What are you stuck on? I've managed to get the punch stuck on something. Okay, I'm gonna grab my wrench. See if I can just take the bolt out. And the wheel shouldn't fall too far because we put the blocks underneath it. And yeah, if you were on the center stand or hadn't lifted the bike up so far, that would not be a problem. If I do this a couple more times, I'll remember all the tricks I learned in Alaska. Out of practice. I don't remember it being this hard. I think it's because I got the punch stuck. I'm gonna grab a vice grip so I can get the punch out, and then it'll probably just fall out. When I was a kid, I used to read all the magazines. Dirt Bike magazine was one. And there was usually some maintenance section in there and show you little tips and tricks of how to do the things. Okay, we got the punch out. And this one article they had, I don't remember what the job was, but it was how to do something. And it had a list of tools you would need. There was a paper bag and a rock and something else. I think you were redoing the bearings on a wheel or something like that. And so the paper bag was so you had something clean to lay the dirty bearings on, and the rock was to put on the paper bag so that it didn't blow away in the wind. And I just always remembered that. Out here, definitely need that. Something to keep the bag from blowing away. Okay, that's what it was. I had the punch was actually jamming the axle in place, because it is pulling out. Good. I knew it shouldn't have been that hard. Okay, I'm going to lay this aside so I don't get it dirty. And then we can focus on not losing all of the parts that are going to fall out. I think, if I remember right, from here, I'm going to just roll the wheel straight back. And we'll get the camera on the ground so we can see all the parts that fall out. So now it's not connected to anything. So if we roll it back on our sticks, there's one thing that's going to fall out. That's a spacer for that side. I'm going to just set that on a board so I don't lose it. And that's it for that side. And there's a spacer on the other side as well. So don't lose those. And keep track of which one is which. That'll just save you time putting it together. Oh yeah, now I remember. The sprocket is actually floating. It's got a rubber, so these are metal pieces. And inside the wheel is I think this is called a spider. It's a piece of rubber that's molded. And so it's got teeth sticking up, the rubber goes on it. And so it's got basically, it's got the duplicate of these also in the wheel, and the rubber goes in between them for vibration dampening. Also in here you can see the bearings. So this side has a bearing inside the sprocket carrier and also a bearing inside the wheel. Okay, all I need is this, so I'm not going to take the wheel over there. Opposite side of the wheel is where the rotor is. All right, so I'm going to lean this over on my work stand step thingy so we don't lose it. And we'll take this over to the bench. It is a gorgeous day. I think this is the day after Christmas or 2 days after Christmas. I'll look it up later. Boxing Day or day after Boxing Day? All we got to do is undo these bolts. Or actually, they're studs that are into here, so hopefully the nut breaks loose and not the stud. I think they're knurled in there. If that's the 13, that'll be easy. It is? Or is that a 12? It might be a 12. 12 millimeter, okay. They're probably tight, so I'm going to use my breaker bar to break them loose so you don't break your ratchet. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to see if there's a mark on there. Oh, there it is. I never could see this. This is a 43, and we're going to put a 38. So 5 less teeth. What I'm hoping is the 5 less teeth is about how long that piece of chain I put in. So then I can just take that piece out and then make the adjustment and not have to cut the chain again. That would be nice. All right, gloves, because reasons. This is important. You're going to be trying to hang on to the sprocket with one hand and break it loose with the other hand. I could do this if I needed to. If I needed leverage, I can set this back into the wheel and then use the wheel to break it loose. In fact, if they're really tight, I could put the wheel back in the bike. This would be a good thing to think about. Before you take it all apart, you could use the weight of the bike to help hold this still. Leave the bike on the ground, break these loose, move it a little bit, break the other ones loose, if you needed to. I don't think we're going to need to, but if we do. And remember which way we're going, so lefty loosey, righty tighty. Oh yeah, these aren't too bad, so that's good. I could see somebody conscientiously over-tightening these, but they aren't too tight. So it's kind of remember that when we put it back together, we don't have to just kill them. I haven't looked for my book, but I'm sure I still have it. They probably have a torque on this kind of thing. Oh, there's a little bit of damage from when the chain fell off. I saw some damage on the swing arm too. Okay, I'm going to have to work on that one because it damaged the nut a little bit. That's loose. I'll go find a wrench so that I can get onto that one. And that one too. Okay, so I got 2 damaged nuts. So let me go find the wrench. How many times is that now? 14 times into the house already. 12 millimeter. Go. Yeah, if you're gonna do your own work, you got to buy your own tools. And it's honestly, well, for me, it's not even an option because it's 100 miles to the nearest motorcycle place. And the last time I walked in there, well, the only time I walked into the one here, well, in El Paso, I couldn't even get them to sell me what was I looking for? A Master Link. I was like, okay, I just needed a Master Link, and he didn't have one in stock. And yet they're always complaining about, why everybody goes on the internet to buy stuff. And it's like, well, if you don't even have the simplest stuff, who's going to bother, So, yeah, when the chain popped off, it hit these nuts. Screwed them up enough that the socket won't fit. So we could replace them, but now it fits. So we didn't even need the wrench. A little more work on that one. It'd be worth remembering that so I could buy some new nuts later, but for now. In a pinch, you could just hammer the socket on there. Would probably work. Question is your socket stronger than the nut? Or did you just ruin your socket? There we go. Yay, okay. So remember 43, that's how big it was. And then we could do the math, we'd figure out the ratio. We could come up with a theoretical speed, or I could just run it down the driveway and see. And these nuts have a flared base on them. I guess that makes them better. Since I just brought my, there it is. Let's get the dirt off of the nuts a little bit. A really nice thing to have would be a pressure washer. So before you bring the bike in the shop, you just spray it off and then leave it out in the sun for a few minutes and let it drip dry. So when you're working on it, it's nice and clean. Aside from just being nice, if it's clean, you can see if something else is broken that the dirt might hide. So that's just a good general tip anyway. But at least when you're taking something apart to work on it, if you clean it up a little bit, it goes together easier. You're not fighting all the dirt. A breaker bar held straight makes a nice nut driver, in case nobody ever told you that. If I was in a hurry, I could go get one of my impact drivers and spin them off, but I've already been back in the shop 15 times. I'm not going back again if I can help it. And yeah, if you start with the breaker bar tipped out, you got leverage, and then when it gets easy, this one's got probably damaged on the threads. Then when it gets easy, stand it up and you can go fast again. Some of these are just almost finger tight right now because I broke them loose. If they were all loose, then I'd go ahead and just take them off with my fingers. But this sprocket's in really good shape. I must have replaced it just before I quit riding, I think. The new one is made in Thailand. That is also where the KLR is built. I think they're still made in Thailand. I'm pretty sure mine is. All right. And there's the size of this hole matches this lip. Now is a good time. Take the time to get the dirt out of there so the new sprocket, when it goes on, will sit nice and flat. Because otherwise you're torquing it and you're just squashing the dirt, and the sprocket will end up just a little bit crooked, and then when the dirt falls out later, it'll be loose again. So that just goes against you. Alright, and then knock it out. Alright. Yeah, I brought the screwdriver for something. There we go. Shiny. With the label sticking out so we can see it. Yeah, 38. Okay. And for the curious, it's that much bigger. Also, the hole in the middle is the same, and the holes, these holes line up, so we can get a shot of that. Oops, slightly off camera. It's considerably different. This will make us go this much faster. Look at that, like a glove. And we will torque it on like you would do a wheel or, anything like that. Go around opposites and then, work your way around. Also make sure it'll at least finger tighten on. This one's tight. That's probably one of the damaged ones. If I had a tap and die set for metric, it would be good to just touch that one up. But I do not have. So we'll just do our best. If it was really, really tough, I do have a set of little needle files. I have used that kind of stuff before. Also, can at least try to get it clean. Maybe that'll help. But yeah, there is damage on that bolt from when the chain came off, so that happens. Let's see if we can get it to go on before we put everything else together. Yeah, that'll be fine. We'll use the ratchet now. I just wanted to show you using a breaker bar because a lot of people don't use one. And you'll end up wrecking your ratchet trying to break something loose. Alright. That's not ideal, but it'll work. Oh, now the cloud comes out. It's not cold, but you sure feel the difference. There we go. That one's on. You should be able to finger tighten most of these down to the point where they touch. I know that one's damaged, and this one is damaged, I think, so. Tighten a couple of them down. Make sure that they contact all the way down. If you can see it sticking up, stop, get the dirt out from behind it. That's probably what you got. Everybody talks about, torque it down in a certain order, but they don't always say why. And if you don't know, maybe nobody showed you. There's a reason. It's because if I just tighten the first one down, it'll pull down tight and it'll be crooked. It will be crooked. And it's not just hypothetical. You'll actually see it sometimes. And then the next one won't be able to tighten all the way down. You know, and it's not really obvious why. So I've got the gloves on just so I don't rip the skin off my fingers. So we're doing every other one cross, and then this one cross, and then this one, and then this one. And then just to be sure, I'm going to go once around just to make sure I didn't just miss one. And because they weren't super tight, and these are self-locking nuts, and we're done. I always feel bad because this is the last time this is going to be clean. You know, in about 5 minutes after I put this together, it's going to look like this one. Okay, let's put it back together. That part went well. Okay. Assembly is the reverse of disassembly. Remember? Knock out some of the dirt. Get the wheel over here. This and this will mate up. As far as I know, there's not a specific place to put it. It just goes in. Okay. I've got 2 spacers, one on each side, and they just kind of set in there. They're easy to knock out, so you want to be looking for that. And they got kind of a dust shield on them, so we'll get it up on the blocks here. And then we can just roll it into position and just roll it gentle so you don't knock the spacers out. And on this side, I'm hitting the disc brake mounting bracket thingy. I'm a little bit crooked too. There we go. Do not fight it. That's the biggest thing I can say. If something is sticking, look to see what the problem is. And then we'll just kind of do it a little bit at a time. So I'm going to get the axle. I'm going to set it into here. Make sure the first set of holes is lined up. It's not likely to just go in real easy all the way through, but get it until it hits the wheel, and then you lift up the wheel however you can grab it. In the rain, this is a lot more awkward, right? Because it's real easy to get frustrated. Make sure I didn't lose my thing. Take a look, see how much we need. If I can use something to lift up the wheel just a little bit, like if you had a big pry bar, or your axe, or, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, something like that. Literally, I'm pushing the axle with my belly right now just to get it started. Once it's started, then you can lift it up and get it to go straight. There we go. Don't just hammer it in because you're going to be knocking something loose. You know, if you bump it a little bit, fine, but don't just sit there and hit it with a rock until it goes in, because if you're fighting it, something's not straight. It's easy to get mad. I have not read it, but apparently there's a book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I think that is probably on the right track. And on the other side, I'll look to see why it's not working. And I use the fat end of my punch to kind of line things up. Because if it's close, If it's close on one side and it's already in on the other side, it'll probably go in. That was probably the punch falling out, right? Almost? Okay. Yeah, we're close. I can see it is crooked, so now I know which way to go. Take a look once in a while to make sure you didn't forget, or make sure you didn't just knock your spacer out again. Okay, we're getting close now. We're through the, and this is one of those, it makes sense when you look at it. The thing that the brake mounts to, the axle goes through it so that it has to be in the right spot. It's kind of automatically in the right spot, so that as you adjust your axle to get your chain tension right, the brake is in the right spot relative to the axle. It's not mounted to the swing arm directly. It floats. Okay, so there, I just pushed it in with my hand because it was straight. If you pound it in, you're going to break stuff, and your life just got a whole lot harder. If you smash the threads on your axle, it's going to be a long walk home, because you're going to be doing this on the side of the road in the rain. Just practice it once on a sunny day. That's a good tip. Okay. What I'm going to do now is loop the chain and see how long it is before I mess with, I'm not going to put the axle nut on because we're going to have to loosen it to adjust the chain. I'm not going to put the brakes back on. We're just going to get this thing to the next step. Also, somehow I've gotten my shirt dirty. That's a crazy thing, I know. Okay, so what we're going to do, also I don't want to kneel in the dirt if I don't have to. I can move this out of the way though. That worked good. It's little stuff like that. Why lift, if you're like here, we're probably 6 inches off the ground. That's ridiculously high. I could have gone down 2 clicks on the jack stands, right? So since I was too high, 3 2x4s was pretty close. Now I only have to lift the wheel half an inch instead of 6 inches. Much easier to deal with that, right? Okay, because the wheel is where it was before, or nearly so. This is loose, but it's basically there. The chain was already too long before, and then we have less teeth here, so the chain will need to be shorter because of less teeth. Okay, so if we just hold this up here, also we're off the ground, that's going to throw things off, but you can see we're about two links off already, and the chain is pretty loose. Okay, and I could take 3 links out there, and we're close. What I need is 5 links, because that's where the next master link is, because like I was saying before, this chain has an extension piece in it. Also, if I slid my axle forward, we could probably make that up. So let's try that first. I'm going to loosen up my adjusters here. And I think I'm going to need, I don't remember, is it 12? I think it's a 10 and a 12. Also, it looks like I did drop the chain in the dirt anyway, so that's why we're using the old chain. Okay, 13 and 14. 12 and 14. That makes sense. I think the original KLR kit probably has the 12 and the 14 in it. So these are jam nuts. So you get the jam nut back, and then you loosen up both of them. And we're going to slide it as far forward as we can. This is why I haven't put the axle nut on yet, because you need to loosen the axle nut before you adjust the chain. Otherwise you'll be fighting the tension. The axle nut pulls everything tight up against the swing arm. Okay. And this usually takes a good kick to get it to move. This I remember from working in the rain. So put one hand on the bike so you don't knock it off the stand. There we go. It moved. I don't think it went all the way. I'm looking at the marks. There's marks on the swing arm. Oh, I probably hit the chain too. I'll just pull that up and out of the way and just kick it straight forward. Or one mark from the front. Okay, we'll just say that's where it goes. Okay. Try it again. We're not going to make it that way. If I put weight on the bike, it'll change my length a little bit too. So that might be an idea. Put the bike back on the ground and see where it actually sits when it's got weight on it. I don't want to fight it to put it on there, but if I could get it one tooth shorter, at least then, yeah, I'm gonna drop it off the stands and see where it sits, and then we'll put it together. I'll probably end up shortening this extension chain one link, which is fine. Okay. Tuck that back. Oh, that'll be good. Keep it out of the dirt. Sure. Okay. Rock it one way, get the stand out. And then, if I was smart enough, I would have grabbed one of those boards, but it would be in the wrong spot anyway. Most of the weight is in the front now with the batteries. There we go. And then set it on the side stand. Carefully balance it. Get the second stand out of the way. And there we go. See if I can get the back to sit. I don't want to tension it too tight, but most of the times I'm riding this bike, there's gonna be me on there also. On the KLR, the way that it was described, you were supposed to leave a bit of slack in the chain to account for when you sit on the bike, everything settles, and then by the time you were riding, it had good tension. So you don't want to over tighten it. Okay. So now let's see where we're at. It's nicer working when it was sitting on the stand, but if I had one gift for humanity, it's put something underneath where the chain is going to hit the ground. That just makes it all worthwhile. Alright, I do have to kneel in the dirt. Very sad. Oh, we can get another link out of that. Almost. Yeah, I'm pretty far off. I thought I would be closer than that. If I can get it half a link. Bummer. Because that's really loose. That'll tighten up once we tighten the axle, but I'm going to see if I can, because I'm not to the last mark yet. I'm going to hit it with a hammer on the tire because I couldn't kick it hard enough. Lift the bike up off the stand and see if I can move it. Stay. Didn't move. Oh, duh. Observe as I am a retard. Let me grab my 12 and my 14. I'm right up against the jam nut. Ha! I'm glad I looked at that. Yeah, it couldn't go any further because I am literally as far as the jam nut would let me go. Okay. That might be enough. Oops. See, where's my rock to find my thing that's flying away? See, look at all the stuff you're going to learn watching me be stupid here. I'm like, okay, there's a mark on the swing arm that I can't get to. Why? You know, why would they put the mark so far up? And yeah, this end cap here, it's got a ridge inside, so if it's not sitting flat, it'll steal a 1/16 of an inch from you. So take the time to make sure, yeah, this side is tight against the cap, but the cap wasn't sitting flat. Meantime, I hammered against it. Jeez. Okay. I bet I can kick it now even. Yep. That moved. Yeah, we're almost to the first mark. And it's tight against the cap. Yeah, we're up to the first mark on the other side, so that means the wheel's crooked. Okay, that'll work. It's just a bit off the mark, but it's basically there. If I can cut the chain, I don't want to have to cut it again. This is my whole purpose here. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of slack there. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to cut out basically 1, 2, 3, cut out 4 links of the 5 that were extended last time. That's going to put 2 master links next to each other, but whatever. And that's a reasonable amount of tension now. I don't know if I can show that, but that's not bad. And I don't know if I can push down on the bike enough. Not like that, but okay. Okay, I'm going to go get a marker so I can mark that. And I'll just bring out a grinder to use to cut the chain. And I'm cutting a piece of scrap extension chain anyway. And that chain is whacked. So I don't feel bad about that. And I'm going to run this chain, if I can get away with it, I'm going to run this chain until the new motor gets here. And then we'll have a new motor, a new chain, and this new sprocket, and a new sprocket for the motor. So we're running the old chain for the prototype so we don't screw up a new chain. Because you know you're going to end up cutting it anyway. Okay, Next step, grindering and markering and grindering. I know I counted it, but I don't have any confidence in my remembering abilities. That looks about right. Yeah, that's good tension. So what I end up doing, I will just grind off the 2 pins. So I mark them with the marker, and they are like yeah, there's like I said before, there's an inner link and an outer link. So it's going to be inner link, master link, inner link, master link, chain. All right, here we are. To make life easy on myself, easier. Okay, I'm not convinced this is going to help, but rather than taking the whole chain over there, we'll just take the short piece over there. Yeah, I honestly don't know if that's going to help or not, but at least then I don't have to have grinder dust all over the whole chain. Also, I have not lubed or cleaned this chain, so, you know, it's sacrificial for the greater good here. And watch, I'll try to put it together with the wrong half. That's guaranteed to happen. This one. There we go. I'll leave these ones in the dirt just to confuse me. Okay. There's the mark on this one. So I'll just set this in the vise. Leave it sticking up a little bit proud. I guess proud just means sticking up. Do not get your fingers stuck in the vise. Okay, and we're going to hit this one and this one. I'll do it this way. Make sure we can still see that. Oh, we can. Look at that. Since I have been wearing my safety glasses the whole time, I do still have them on. Everybody yells, "Don't wear your gloves." It's like, yeah, but the sparks are hot. I will wear my gloves. You can do what you want to do. Oh yeah, and thanks to David for the grinder. That's a true friend, somebody that knows what tool you need. You know, you always need one more grinder. And it came with, still got the guard on it. That's a friend that cares about you. Somebody to put the guard back on. And a good wheel. I gotta think it's a Walmart grinder with a Harbor Freight wheel on it. And since we've already got the punch out here, we are ready to go. Why do we have the punch? Oh yeah, for getting the axle in or out. There we go. One side plate. I usually end up saving those for art projects or something. There's the O-rings that are supposedly part of it. We are not going to put those back in because this is not going to be long with this world. All right. We don't need. Oh, there's the other O-ring. Literally, all we need is half. This is like the half of the link. What I was trying to explain before. You got the outer half that we cut, and the inner half. So you can't do a half a chain usually, although I have seen half links. So I'm in the sun, sorry. You got the inner half on the end here, and then it's got a plate that goes on the outside that makes the outer half. All right. So we are literally going to have an inner half connecting two master links. Yeah. When I was on the Alaska trip, I knew my chain was getting bad, and I had a spare chain with me, and then for some reason I had not brought the chain breaking tool with me, and the chain I brought was too long. I don't know why. I had every other tool I could need, but I didn't buy that. So when I got to, I was in the Yukon, Yellowknife maybe, got to a motorcycle shop, bought the tool, borrowed a couple tools from them that I didn't have after all, and broke the chain and put the new one on, and I get to looking at the old chain. The silver part in the middle is a roller. Most of the rollers were missing on that chain, which is why it was so loud. Yeah, it was basically done. But the Dempster Highway was about 1,000 miles of gravel, and so I didn't want to put the new chain on before that. So when I got done with that, then I put the new chain on, and then we were fine after that. So, and I probably didn't lube it near as much as you're supposed to either. But yeah, that was pretty bad. Don't do that. All right, this should be exactly right, or we'll do it again. Either way. So we're going to have two master links putting this together. Now I'm hoping, well, no, I'm not going to worry about it actually. I'm not going to worry about the new chain until I get the new motor and then figure out where it's going to mount. And then I'll worry about the new chain, but I have new chains coming, 2 of them. I don't remember how long they are, so when I get, well, I'll use this chain to mock up the new motor, and then I'll count the links to when I have it right, and then I'll either cut a link on the new chain or I'll buy a new chain that's long enough. Either way. Because this is one of those things that I have to remember is this is no longer exactly a KLR, so if I go on, like eBay, for instance, it'll tell you how long the chain is on a KLR. Well, this isn't a KLR anymore. It's kind of a KLR. It wants to be a KLR. But it's not quite. Okay, 2 master links and 1 inner. It's kind of like belly buttons, I guess. 1 inner and 1 outer. Something like that. Okay, so we'll put the master link on the top half. And then we'll put the inner on. And then we've already got the master link on the bottom half, so we'll have to take it off to slide it on there. And then we'll have to wiggle it a little bit. Oh, look at that. No wiggling required. That's how we know it's exactly right. And we'll try to find the holes. Insert jokes here. Master link, master link. Genius. Let me make sure that's in the shot because that's a good one. Oh yeah, that'll be perfect. And then we will need the, oh, they're there already. Yes. Look at how smart we are. Okay, now we have a side link. Put the rusty side in, I guess. Slide that all the way on. And another side link, also rusty side in. Put that all the way in. And then your 2 clips, you want to face these in the direction of travel. So the wheel spins this way when we're going forward. So you want this, the open part back and the rounded part forward. And the way I heard this described is think of it like a rocket ship. So if you think of the new SpaceX rocket, it looks like it's got the, well, actually now they don't have the legs anymore, but if the pointed end is front and the open end is the bottom where the nozzle would be, it's like a rocket going forward. So however you want to make that work in your head. That way, if it hits anything on its way around, it tends to not get knocked off. Here's the one to remember. If you load your bike in a truck, for instance, coming out of the truck, you're going backwards. there's a chance you could knock your master link clip off coming out of the truck, or anytime you back the bike up for that matter. But that's the most likely scenario, is you're unloading it. So you go up to the mountains, and the very first thing you do is you lose your master link right next to your truck. That would suck. Okay, now I can tension the chain a little bit now that it's put together. How are we doing on time? Let's make a new clip. Okay, now we got the master links in, the clips on. I can look at my chain tension, and I actually think that's better than it was. I'm going to put just a little bit of tension on it, just so that these caps aren't bouncing around, but not very much. Because I know you could tension the chain every time you ride it. That's not something I'm excited about doing. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple turns on it, and then I'm going to set the jam nuts. Alright, so we'll hold it with one, and we'll put jam on it with the other one. Good enough. And now is when you're supposed to get your head down there and look to see if it's straight and true. I'm pretty sure that my motor isn't exactly straight and true anyway, but we can at least, humor the gods and take a look. I always struggle with this because you're upside down anyway, trying to look up that. And you can't get your head down low enough to look at the bottom of the chain, but you're looking at the top. It does look like we're crooked, but I haven't tensioned the other side yet, so what I can do is put a couple turns on the other side, which I suppose would tend to be making it straight. I'm not the world's best mechanic, which is why I'm out here, I suppose. While I'm doing that, check your tension, make sure you didn't just over-tighten something. That does feel probably tighter than it needs to be, so I'm going to back it off a little bit. And I'm going to think about the same on this side. I'm going to back it off just a little bit, and then I'm going to kick the wheel to take the tension, move it a little bit. Put a little bit of slack in there. Give it a good kick. That put the tension back on the cap. I'm just going to lock it there. If you over tighten the chain, it's worse than if you under tighten it. Under tighten, it might come off, which is bad, but it's not going to wear it out super fast. If you over tighten it, it's going to stretch the hell out of the chain, and that's not good. So a little bit of slack is fine. It's noisy, but it's not going to hurt immediately. It's not good, but all right, I'm just gonna leave it there. If I look at my marks, I'm about 3/4 to the second mark. I can't see that. I am crooked. I could back that side off. Let's just do that. I'm too tight and crooked. That's not a good place to be. So I'll give it a kick, and that'll be just right. Oh yeah, I like that. You could look at the threads that are sticking out, and that might be a starting point. Assuming the bolts are the same length, and there's a lot of variation here. So I'm going to set the jam nut, and then I'm going to kick the wheel one more time. Now my end cap is tight. Now we can finally put the axle nut back on. One last look just to make myself happy. Yeah, that's reasonable. Too tight is bad. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to put the brake on first, then I'll put the axle nut on. That seems like a good idea. So you just kind of slip this guy on. Get it to line up. Take a look to make sure your brake pad didn't fall out. That would be awkward. Looks like it's there. Okay. Also, yeah, I put all of the chain tensioning first because, oh, I need bolts for that. There's no reason for the brake to be there while you're putting everything else together. I mean, it doesn't hurt, I guess, but you know, if you were only tensioning your chain, you wouldn't take the brake off. But if you had to take the wheel off anyway, then the brake is already off anyway. So get these both started, because if you tighten the first one down, if the second one wasn't actually lined up, it's going to be tough to get it in there. Once it's in there, make sure they both thread all the way in and then tighten them. And this was pretty tight. Probably somebody got scared. That's good enough. Tension, if you're not sure, think about how long the wrench is. And the smaller bolts will have smaller wrenches. You know, so 2 fingers on the end of the wrench is probably plenty. Don't have to overdo it. Just enough so you don't die. Okay, flat washer, nut. Tightening the nut helps to lock everything else from sliding. If these guys backed out, if the nut's tight, it might not even move. And then you're going to tighten the nut far enough so that you can get the cotter pin in. So when you're looking at the axle bolt, start looking for the, oh, this is the one thing I screwed up. Let's do this. Here's a great tip. Take the nut off, look at the axle bolt, and figure out where the holes are. There's 4 holes on this one, so 2 going this way and 2 going that way. If we take our handy wrench, we can spin the axle so that one of the holes is straight up. Yeah, there we go. Now it's a lot easier to find it, because when you're tightening the nut, you have no idea where the next hole is. I mean, you can kind of see them through the castles. Castellated nuts have that slot in the top that looks like a castle. Okay, so now I know the hole is straight up. That makes my life a little bit easier. And of course there is a torque on here, but since I don't have the book out here and I don't have my torque wrench, because I don't own one, we'll tighten it down and then snug it. First part of tightening is actually essentially compressing the swing arm. There's a little bit of spring in it. So you want to take that out and then find the next hole. And about there. Now we got a hole lined up. There's 4 holes and 6 sides on the castellated nut. So between the 2 holes, you'll find one that's right. If this had not tightened up on a hole, the other hole would be lined up. Okay. Find my pliers. If you have a new cotter pin, put it in. That's just a good idea. Eventually this will break, but you can usually get away with a couple. As long as you got enough bend on it so it can't fall out. You know, if the best you got is a nail, it's better than nothing. Bend it up. As an aircraft mechanic, there was a lot of ritual involved with getting cotter pins bent right. It's probably less important on a motorcycle. One of the things though, if you got that set nice and tight, you wouldn't scratch yourself the next time. As on an airplane, you were putting your hand into holes and there was cotter pins everywhere. So taking a little bit of time to straighten it out and get it bent in a way that wouldn't cut you was time well spent, because between you and the other guys, everybody was going to be bleeding. So if you could avoid excess bleeding, that's good. Look at that, 1 o'clock. I probably spent 2 hours doing this, but it'll be faster if you don't have a camera. Okay, now for the fun part. Test ride. I almost forgot why I was doing this. I was focusing. I was more focused on chain tensioning, but we also put a new sprocket on, which means it will go faster. How much faster is the question. I already know I could go between 14 and 15 miles an hour before. Let me pick up some of the carnage here, and then we can go. I'm not going to do a camera that shows how fast we're going. Not that that's a big deal, but if I had a GoPro that could record, what I will do, when I go to town, I'll take the phone, I'll do a GPS track on the speed. Because on the first range test is when I saw 13 to 14. And I think on the road I've seen 14 to 15. So if this is faster than that, it'll show up on the GPS speedometer test. So we'll just do it that way. All right, here we go. Short run. Too scared to look. Oh, don't hit the rocks. Go. All right, it works. Yay. Burp. Cool. All right, the chain does seem quieter. It's got better tension. It's not as super tight as I thought it was, although it's not terrible. I think I'll leave it for now. I was seeing between 15 and 16, maybe 17, instead of 13, 14, and 15. So we picked up maybe 2 or 3 miles per hour. I think theoretically the ratio should be higher than that, but that's still a good improvement. Yesterday I got to town in less than an hour. Usually on the bicycle, it would take me hour and 5, hour and 10, depending on how hard I wanted to pedal. With this, more of the road I can run at, full throttle without having to slow down for every little bump. When I'm pedaling on the bicycle, I quite often don't pedal over the hard bumps because I want both feet on the pedals and just kind of stand up a little bit over the big bumps. So I'm not pedaling when it gets really rough. I'm going just fast enough that if I start bouncing, it's just not comfortable on a bicycle. Okay. So on this, because I'm not pedaling, I can just leave my feet on the peg. I can stand up a little bit if I want to, but I've got so much suspension on here, I can go faster over the bumps so I don't have to slow down. So, a lot of times I'll just go full throttle and leave it. But yeah, it seemed like it worked. Everything was fine. It's as good as it was. I didn't ruin anything. So now that it's a little bit after 1 o'clock, I got to go to the post office and pick up something. I see the clouds are coming in. I don't think there was any rain forecast. I'm typically going just fast enough with the wind, even if it's warm, it's going to feel cold, so I'm going to wear a jacket. What I'm going to do, I've got one of those black tote boxes, the same one I used to use on the one-wheel trailer. I'll just ratchet strap that on the back behind me. And I just realized the whole back rack is loose right now because I took half of the bolts out of it for something and just never put it back together. But when I ratchet strap the box on there, it holds it tight, so that'll be okay. Yeah, we'll fix that as we go. Cool. I will do a video when I get back, assuming we make it back. If not, well, you're not going to see this, I guess. Cool. Stay tuned. All right, 3:34 p.m. and we are home. That's completely irrelevant because I forgot to look at what time it was when I left. So here we go. Let's just, as I fall down the stairs. Perfect. I was just going to say it's so much easier to go out the front door. There's irony. As I limp away carefully. All right. It works. It's faster. and stuff. I was seeing 16 and 17 miles an hour according to the speedometer. Not necessarily accurate, but I was seeing 13, 14, and 15 before, so I'm definitely 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, which when you're only going 15, going 17, that feels like you're flying. Everything helps a little bit. All right, so let's see what we got here for an idea of cargo. We did 24.9 miles according to the odometer. I'm going to compare that to what the phone says. I did GPS tracking. Also, that battery's just about dead on the camera, so we'll try to hurry. All right. So what I've been doing is this is the cargo box I used on the trailer. It's about the right size for back here. It's sticking out too far on the back. Is what it is. It's a good size for the amount of stuff I usually carry. So, bolts, beans, and balls. Yeah. I've been tightening the strap on this for so long that this lid is just slightly warped. So, I'll come back to that in a minute. Wolf chili. It's a good chili. There is 3 6-packs in the box. That's bolts that I need for the motorcycle. Yeah, it's a flat rate box, so I didn't have to weigh it. I don't know about impulse buys, but yeah, I guess impulse buy is probably pretty close. When I realized that my battery mount was a huge knee knocker, I thought what I need is something like a tennis ball or a racket ball or something to stick on there, and I didn't have any. I thought, I can probably buy these online. So I got a 12-pack of racket balls. So bolts, beans, and balls. That's my world. Although technically there's no beans in the chili, so that whole bit just doesn't work anymore. Future improvements. Well, at the moment, I think this was on the last video, this whole back rack is loose because it's missing some bolts. I took the bolts out when I mounted a smaller cargo back box on the back. Oh, you didn't see that anyway. So this whole rack in the back is loose right now. There's some bolts missing. Usually the tool holder would be back here, but I had a cargo box that I had mounted one of the military surplus flight cases. So I had managed to reuse these holes, sort of, kind of worked. So I drilled holes through the bottom of the waterproof box. So now it's not waterproof anymore. But it wasn't a very big box. I don't know if I have any old pictures of that or not when it was on here. So what I'm kind of thinking, and I haven't decided how far I want to go with this. Also, I've got some ammo cans coming that I can mount to the sides here. So a lot of this stuff that I carry, if I had a permanent box on the side, I could just get to the post office, open the package, and dump everything into the box. That would probably work fine. If I made a bigger rack on the back, I could put this box on sideways and then just use bungees or ratchet straps to tie it down, which would also work. What I'm finding is when I am wearing the backpack still. When I wear the backpack, I'm sitting way too far forward because the backpack is hitting the box when it's back here. The box, I got it to about here, but then it sticks way out past the back. It's working fine. The ratchet strap is holding it down, but it's awkward looking. So I had a couple ideas. One, completely rebuild the whole rear subframe. So it bolts on here and here, and then it's this piece that's got all of the brackets for all the stuff I don't need anymore. Muffler, for instance. So one idea is to just make a whole new subframe and pick up those points. It's a little bit ambitious, but it's not much harder than some of the other things I've done. By making my own subframe, then I could put mounting points for panniers, basically cargo boxes. So I could make my own hard points that the cargo boxes would mount to. And I'd put them where I want them to be because, it's like all I've got to work with right now. This is where the rear seat foot pegs would be. So for your passenger. And then there's this and one here, right down here, for the side panel. And the front of the side panel would have attached to the gas tank, which is no longer there. Same on the other side, basically. Here's the bolt for the seat, so I could use that. But none of those bolts are really strong enough to mount a 30-pound, 40-pound cargo box on. So I'm going to end up making a new rack system. The other thing, the rear of the frame comes all the way back to about where the signal lights is, and then from there back it's just plastic. One of the things when I was doing the Alaska trip, the first time I tried to make a rack on the back to put the boxes on, I had 20 millimeter ammo cans, which is actually the same can I have coming again. I don't have those anymore. I gave them to the guy that bought the motorcycle. But I had put them too far forward, trying to get the weight forward. And then what I realized is when my feet were on the ground, as soon as I went to roll forward to take off, instantly my calf would hit the box. And it actually was what it tended to do is it would push my foot down into the ground and jam, so that I couldn't get my foot off the ground as I was running over myself, basically. So that hurt a lot. So don't do that. And I actually got so far as to actually building the whole thing and doing the first test ride before I figured it out. So that was a little bit embarrassing, but it hurt more than than I cared. But anyway, so to do this the right way, the box ends up having to start about here and come way back to here. And then it's pretty deep from about here down to here. They're a pretty good sized box. So the problem with that is there's no frame. Well, back to here. So it almost works. So you end up pushing the thing way back. And then there's nothing in between the boxes. So, if you look at it from the side, the boxes will tend to do this. So what I came up with on the last one is I just essentially I made a bumper that went between the two boxes so that they didn't flop around as much. And when I built that, I didn't have a welder. Now I do. So I should be able to do something at least better than that. So we'll see. That'll be an upcoming project. The boxes will be here next week. That'll work. We don't have any wind on us, so this will be fine. I could take my backpack off, but then I have to carry it in, right? So until I get a truck or some other vehicle, this is it, and the bicycles. And I've gone about as far as I can go with the bicycles as far as how much can I carry. So this is the next obvious step, and I couldn't carry that much on the bicycle without the trailer, so that's why I built the trailer, and so I had the red bike was set up to pull the trailer. The Giant is not set up to pull the trailer. The Giant also had cargo rack that I had bought and then modified, but I couldn't haul that box on the Giant. I could haul that much stuff if I split it between the two sides or the top. It had a pannier rack on it. And the pannier rack on the Giant was rated at 80 pounds, but I never really felt like you could put 80 pounds on there because it was just held on with 4 little screws, so that seemed a little bit wrong. But this, on the other hand, from what I did on the Alaska trip, I know how much I can load on here, and I'll never need that much weight on here. These batteries weigh 30 pounds a piece, I think. So that's 60 pounds of batteries, but the motor that I took out was 100 pounds, plus the radiator, plus, all of the other parts of it. So we're actually lighter now than we were stock. Okay, so if I added another 40 pounds onto here on the front, it would be almost what it weighed before. Okay. The back is basically the same now, but cargo capacity, according to the internet, is about 400 pounds. So that's 200 pounds of me and 200 pounds of extra stuff. But I lost weight on the front half. So I could do, one of the thoughts is when I get the ammo cans on the back, they're big enough I could put one of these batteries in each can and still have a little bit of room for extra stuff. So I could put a battery and tools back there, for instance. So then I could put 2 batteries in the back, and I think I can get 4 in the front. I don't want to go this high, so I'll push them down. But I can put 2 batteries down really low and then 2 above them, and would still be less weight than the original bike was. Okay. Or, talking about the cargo racks, one of the other things I really need to be able to haul is gas cans for the generator. Especially in the winter, I don't have as much sun, so usually at the end of some days I'm running out of power, so I go out and start the generator, so I need a way to haul gas. Okay. 5-gallon gas can, 6 pounds per gallon, that's about 30 pounds. About roughly the same weight as one of the batteries. So if I put a 30-pound gas can, a 5-gallon gas can on one side, that's nowhere near what I could haul weight-wise, so that wouldn't be a problem. Or I've got 2 gas cans, so I could put one on either side, and that would balance me out. That's 60 pounds. That's still less weight than, a passenger would be. So we'd be completely fine there. So when I build the cargo rack, I think what I want to do is have it so I can haul the black box on the top, like what you saw, and then if I put a gas can on either side, or the ammo can, or maybe the generator. Generator weighs 50 pounds. If I put the generator on the top here, it's smaller than the black box is. So I could put the generator in the same spot. If I had the ammo cans, whatever I have in the backpack, I could throw in the ammo cans, because usually the backpack is, like I've got the little cordless air compressor in there, so I can air up the tires if I need to. I can put, all of my tools could go in the ammo can. My snacks for when I'm at work, I could just leave them in the ammo can. Then I wouldn't need the backpack. So if I didn't have the backpack, I could slide the generator forward to about here and I'd still have enough room. Okay. And I'm used to having something back here anyway, so that's not a big deal. I've figured out, how to get on and off with something back here so you don't swing your leg out and you kick it all the time. So I'm kind of used to that. So with 2 batteries in the front and a 50-pound generator back here, all of a sudden I don't have range anxiety anymore, right? So I need to work on a better way to mount it. I think I could just throw the ratchet strap over it. I don't think this ever hit any of the videos that got released, but when I had the Delta, the solar trike, for a test a couple days, I did take the little generator with me. And with the power, the battery charger that I've got, it was working just fine. So I could be driving along, generator going, charging the batteries, and it didn't run itself dead on the way home. It was actually keeping up. Wintertime, solar wasn't quite enough to really continuously go on the Delta trike. It was too heavy, and that's the same motor as this one, so it used more power than the solar could keep up with, right? But the generator, I could put in 15 amps continuously, and that's more. I could actually, if I drove without the generator for a few miles, pulled the battery down, start the generator, by the time I got to work, it was more fully charged than when I started. You know, it was actually charging faster than I could use it. And on that little inverter generator, as the battery got full, you'd hear the generator slow down because it throttled based on load, so it didn't just sit there and run max all the time. So if, for instance, if I needed to get to El Paso, I used to ride this motorcycle with the gas motor to El Paso. That's how I got to work when I worked in the post office there. I didn't enjoy it. It's not a good 80-mile-an-hour motorcycle. Ironically, when I was doing that, I didn't really know about Highway 20. There's a parallel road, so Highway 20 is the old highway, and then they have the interstate kind of running a few miles over from it. So instead of going 80 miles an hour, I could have dropped down onto Highway 20 and gone 50 or 60 miles an hour and been way more comfortable. So when I get the new motor, instead of this motor, when I get the new one, I think that'll go 45 to 55 miles an hour depending on gearing, but it'll use more power. So 2 batteries wouldn't get me very far, but if we had 2 batteries plus a generator, then we go far. And I just remember this battery's just about to go dead. Still going. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap it up there. Anyway, this is the 3rd time to town. I managed, after changing the sprocket, it is going faster. It's not quite 20 miles an hour, but it's above 15. I only dropped below 15 a couple of times, where before 15 was like the max. So we picked up 2 miles an hour. That's something. I have GPS tracking, so I'll put those screens up. Anyway, that's it. This will change. However, I'm going to wait, I think, unless I have a problem with this, but so far it's riding good. I'm going to wait until I get the new motor. I'm going to have to completely rebuild the motor mount. So when I do that, then I'll design that with the batteries in mind. Worst case, I can always move the batteries back to the back again, and it worked fine. So, you know, I can do that if I need to. In fact, maybe I'll do that while I'm testing the new motor. Once I know the motor is good, then I'll redo the battery mount again. But this kind of a project, I'll just, you know, cut the welds on the original brackets, reuse all the parts. Or, because I know that motor mount is working. In fact, that's the motor mount from the Delta trike. I just cut it a little bit and re-welded it. So, since the holes are in the right spot already. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, we got to town. This is the 3rd time to town, 25 miles round trip, 24.9 this time. We're able to get to work in less than an hour. That's pretty good. It's just a little bit better every time. And then with the new motor, we're going to fly. And then I can, in between, I got to redo the wiring. I don't have any of the lights working. You know, signal lights, tail light, brake light, headlight, horn, none of that works. In fact, most of that isn't even on here right now. So I did strip off the wires already, so we'll just put that back together and separate what I need from what I don't need. Like all of the motor electrics, I'll separate, and then, you know, later on I'll think of what to do with the KLR's motor, and it's got its own charging system built in, so we could make an electric start go-kart that could go 50 miles an hour probably. Or that little blue ATV with the trailer tires, that was one idea. Or I might make a tractor out of it, or could run probably a 20,000 watt generator with that motor. Would be an idea. You know, lots of ideas. All right, that's it for now. I'll put some more information up on the screen. How far we went, how fast we went, average times, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. If you ever want to figure out a way to get rid of mice, just leave a water barrel out. I am constantly pulling dead mice out of there. Also why I don't drink this water. I've got a strainer on the other one. Yeah. Poor guy. Probably died of hypothermia before he drowned. One or the other. Irony. There's a rock there above the water level. If he would have crawled up on the rock, at least he wouldn't have drowned. But depending where he fell from, if he came down the downshoot, he might have broken his neck when he hit the bottom, but then he would still be in the downshoot. Anyway, he ain't swimming no more. Poor little guy. One more dead mouse that would have chewed the wires on my motorcycle. Life is rough out here.